Call to order Stokes County Board of Commissioners dealing with the rezoning request by the Towers LLC from RA to RACZ, number 24-371. If everyone will please stand, and I'll give the invitation. Dear Lord, we're here tonight to listen to a request regarding rezoning of a cell tower. And I know it's a very difficult decision at times with the people that live in the area, and also with the cell tower, hopefully getting the proper coverage or getting additional coverage. Give us the courage to ask the right questions and make the right decision. And please don't forget the storm that's coming through, that just went through Florida, that's heading up the coast, hitting our coastline. It's already in North Carolina. Please put a shield over our public safety responders who are out there in the line of fire, making sure that our citizens are being safe. In God's name we pray, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'm going to read the disclosure of conflict of interest. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda for tonight, or one that could be perceived as a conflict of interest? Okay, all right, I'm not seeing any. All right. Before I ask for approval of the agenda, does anyone want to make a motion to amend the agenda? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This time, we will have the public hearing. Do you want to start it, Eric? Just kind of give a brief at the podium there, and then take it from there.
This rezoning from RA, which is residential agricultural, to residential agricultural conditional zoning for the construction of a new 195-foot monopole cell tower to be located at Lynchburg and Keaton Road, tax parcel 6907-87-6834. I see no problem with this request in that the expansion of the property for a cell tower would be beneficial to the county and emergency services, as well as service for our county citizens, local business, and tourism. The proposal supports the Stokes County 2035 Comprehensive Plan because it addresses the concern for lack of cell service in Stokes County, as was stated by Stokes County citizens in the Comprehensive Plan. This proposal provides potential tax base increase due to expansion of commercial property, and it is reasonable and in the public interest.
Is there anyone that wants to speak at the public hearing, or is everyone just here speaking with the public comments?
I'm Tom Johnson. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Williams & Mullen at 301 Fayetteville Street, Suite 1700 in Raleigh. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Appreciate Eric's comments. And I would like to make another additional comment for the record. The county hires a consultant to help in evaluating towers, which is a good thing to have another point of view and someone else look at it. And that consultant too supports the rezoning for the tower at this location and confirmed that we met all the requirements of the ordinance, which are extensive requirements within the ordinance that we have to go through and we have to meet. And they did go through the package very carefully, and I've worked with this consultant both here in Stokes County and in other counties before, and they're very thorough at examining the application. So I did want to mention that to you. And Eric's exactly right, both in state policy, because straight from the state statute. It's a policy of this state to facilitate the placement of wireless communication support structures in all areas of North Carolina. And your own ordinance in its preamble states that the purpose is to ensure the ready availability of reliable wireless service to the public, government agencies, and first responders with the intention of furthering public safety and general welfare. But in addition to that, the county recognizes that facilitating the development of wireless service technology can be an economic development asset to the county and of significant benefit to the county and its residents. In this instance, I'm representing the tower company here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. And they have evaluated and seen the need for service in this location. And more important than anything else, it's for first responders. It's for folks in the county to get access to 911 when they need it, and for the first responders to be able to communicate to 911. But it's also become more than that. I mean, most folks use their wireless phone now as opposed to having a landline, and they use it in their homes. And so if something happens, first thing they're going to do is pick up that phone, and they need it to work. But beyond that, you've got a lot of natural resources here in the county, and there are a lot of applications on phones that help folks as they enjoy those natural resources, such as Hanging Rock. There are applications on there. I've got one personally on my phone that if I'm out in the woods and I want to know what birds sounds are around, I can record that, and it'll tell me what bird made those chirps. But also it helps you in finding trails that you may want to walk and be able to do that. Identify various wildlife and vegetation that's around that you want to enjoy. All of that in combination, it's become that there's so much available to the general public and to the community that wireless service really is necessary. But beyond that is for business purposes. Businesses use it. Individuals use it when they're, say, working from home and working remotely. That you could see a lot of people up here that may want to enjoy Stokes County and may live in bigger cities but want to be here and work, and they have access. It gives them an opportunity to have access to wireless service and the internet. That's the reason why we're here. That's why we're requesting the tower. Now we go through a process, and your county requires a pretty extensive process. We have to have a balloon test and a public information meeting, which we did. And we didn't have a lot of folks show up. There's a summary of their comments that's in the record. But I wanted to highlight really the two things that I got from looking at that summary and the two concerns that were expressed. Number one was the exposure to radio frequency. Obviously, a tower has radio transmitters on it, just like our phones themselves that I've got here has wireless transmitters. A lot of things in your home have wireless transmitters, from your TV to your microwave oven to whatever. They're all governed by the FCC. And the FCC has specific rules and limitations on how they operate and licenses those, just like they do the carriers. Well, North Carolina law recognizes that and says health and safety of RF emissions is not part of what the governing body can consider in making this decision, because that's within the federal purview and the regulations that govern that and making sure that it's safe. So clearly North Carolina law says that's not part of this tonight. The second part was impact on property values. Well, as part of the record, and I've got Michael Berkowitz here with me tonight, who's a North Carolina licensed appraiser, but he prepared an impact study that found that there would be no adverse impact of this tower on adjoining properties. And we have a lot of data from that over many years and many locations to show that. And so that's really not a concern. So those were really the two primary concerns that I saw from anything in that neighborhood meeting record that we did when we did the balloon test. And I want to kind of step to that just a minute. On the monitors we have we had to do photo simulations as part of that. And it's really kind of amazing where technology has come. These photo simulations, in my experience, are spot on in terms of what it will look like. But this is the site map, and it shows the various locations where pictures were taken. The red X is the site itself. And the site itself is in a very wooded area. We're going to have to clear out a small spot to be able to put everything in there. I'll put the tower and the associated ground equipment. But here's, with the balloon test, you can see the tower just above this home and the V of the trees. I don't know where this has got a laser on it that I can show, but in any event, it's up there. And if you'll see the little inset, that red arrow shows where it is. So that helps you because it's really hard to see. Here as well, you can see just a very little bit of it in the tree there. The red arrow again shows where that was. This is the tower here. This is on Keaton Road, looking at the tower. It's the views from Lynchburg Road, approximately 700 feet northwest of the site. So it's not too far from the site. You can see it there. This again is Keaton Road, about 1,100 feet away. Here is Mountain Mist Road, about 1,300 feet away, and you can see it barely above the tree. It kind of blends in with the tree. This is from Mickey Road, approximately 2.31 miles southeast of the site, and you really can't tell where it is, but the arrow shows where it is. And this is from Moore Spring Road, approximately 1.7 miles southeast of the site. And again, you really can't tell because of the background, but the arrow shows where it is. This is on Highway 66 South, approximately 1.58 miles from the site. Again, the red arrow shows where that is, but it is very difficult to see it in the picture. That's the summary of the neighborhood meeting. I'll go back to that. But again, that's why we're here tonight, to improve the service in the area. Both the county and the consultants support it, say we've met the requirements, gone through and checked all the boxes. Huge application package, but a good bit of that is the federal NEPA statement that we have to do. So for every site, because a cell site or the carriers on the cell tower site and the tower itself are registered with the federal government, you have to follow what's called the National Environmental Policy Act, and you have to go through and do all sorts of studies, environmental, Native American tribal sites, historic properties, any wildlife. We have to deal with Fish and Wildlife Service to make sure we're not endangering any threatened species. All of that, and it's about, of this package is 500 and some pages. That's substantially a lot of what this package is just those studies in and of themselves that are required by the federal government on every site. And we have to get sign off from a historic property point of view by the State Historic Preservation Office. And all of that was done in this case. I can have why don't I have Mr. Berkowitz come up and just give a brief statement, and you can ask him any questions that he may have, you may have of him, but I'm available to answer any questions you may have at this point about the application.
Anybody have any questions so far?
No, not so far.
Okay,
And I'm glad to step in at any time and answer any questions as they come up, either now or during public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me have Mr. Berkowitz come up.
Good evening. My name is Michael Berkowitz. My address is 1100 Sundance Drive, Concord, North Carolina. It's good to be back in Stokes County. I come up here quite a bit. But nevertheless, I did an impact study of this proposed tower. And there's two ways that, from an appraisal viewpoint, that you would look at as to whether it's deleterious to the property values of surrounding properties. First I did was a quantitative analysis. First I searched for a lot of towers in Stokes County. Unfortunately, in Stokes County, there's not enough data, or the quality of data was inadequate to perform what I call a quantitative analysis, or it is a quantitative analysis. I provided examples in that impact study of a quantitative analysis. I also performed a qualitative analysis. As you can see in some of these pictures, the above ground infrastructure poses a much larger visual footprint than the tower would, because of distance, screening, other factors. But it is based upon that in accordance with your ordinance about maintaining the aesthetics of the area as well as the overall character, that this tower as proposed would not be deleterious to property values or to the surrounding property. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any
I just
questions?
have one quick.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever evaluated a site where the tower did affect the property values?
I have never seen a credible quantitative analysis. Qualitatively, especially in the foothills and the mountains, I've seen a couple where they tried to put them, and I wouldn't testify because they had like a big panoramic view, and they stuck because of the topography, the business end was literally 100 feet out their window. And I said, I'm not going to testify that that's not going to hurt. But quantitatively, I've never seen any credible analysis performed that I've seen.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll go to the public comment section. So everyone gets 4 minutes. When the 4 minutes is up, I'll let you finish your sentence or your thought. You are allowed to give time to, if you have somebody that wants to do like the majority of the talking, just let us know when you come up how many people you're talking for, and you can add the time into one person. And if you don't want to do that, we do separate for it, and I'm fine with that too. The first person up is Robin Riddle-Barger.
Thanks, people. I'm Robin Riddle-Barger, the park superintendent from Hanging Rock, 1336 Hooker Farm Road in Westfield. And thank you for letting us do this. Appreciation to Mr. Nance and also Mr. Hunsucker for helping us through the process of tweaking our maps and updating our exclusionary zone information. And then an extra thanks to your the predecessor, David Sutterth, for having the forethought to even putting this in the planning stuff way back when, before cell phone towers were even a thing. But so quickly, I just want to go over a few key points from the September 22nd, 2023 letter from the Hanging Rock Park Advisory Committee that was sent to Eric Nance, the chairman of the planning board. And if you have access to it, I hope you've read it. If you haven't read it, I'm going to hit a couple highlights, and I have a copy to leave with you. But the Park Advisory Committee is made up of 9 stakeholder groups, and there's a person that represents each group. The first being someone represents the environmental interests, business, senior citizens, local government, local parks and rec, general park user, education, youth, and diverse communities. So several of those people are here. They're going to talk also. But from the letter from the PAC from September, it's a group of local citizens who advocate for park users, park neighbors, and advise the Hanging Rock staff on what the groups that they represent, what those people's interests are in park activities and business. So the PAC had volunteers to come and view the balloon test. It was easily seen, spotted without binoculars from the Moore's Knob Tower. This tower site is 147 feet from the 1 mile exclusionary zone. In case you don't know, if there's a 1 mile zone around the park that cannot be any towers, and then there's a 2 and 3 mile zone where the Park Advisory Committee gets to comment on how they feel about the tower itself. So that's what we're doing in this letter. Technically, the proposed site is outside the 1 mile exclusionary zone, but we believe it violates the spirit of the ordinance, which is to protect our viewshed, the character and scenic beauty that residents and visitors alike value. Thus, this proposed cell tower sets an undesired precedent. Yes, this cell tower with 1 to 2 mile radius of service may provide Verizon users and possibly others, and potentially some park visitors, better access to 911 and cell coverage. Be assured that every member of the PAC is very sensitive to the need to provide emergency rescue services, and obviously I have an interest in that, apparently. However, we firmly oppose cell towers that mar our viewshed. It was brought to our attention during our stakeholders meeting that there is an unused tower with a different carrier in the area, and we have not heard sufficient answer as to why it's not used, if that is the case. For reasons listed above, and with the belief that our decision is in the best interest of both the visitors to the park and the citizens of the county, we do not support the approval of the proposed tower on Heaton Road. We respectfully encourage the exploration of other options that include alternate sites and/or technologies. We're aware that our input is recommendation and that the proposed tower is still subject to approval by the county. We ultimately, the PAC is in the future going to be looking into excluding the zone into a larger limit of up to 3 miles. But for tonight, in addition to just hitting those highlights, I want to hit a few highlights from your own policy. So I'm going to go in reverse order. Page 171, Section 4, no tower shall be located within an adopted viewshed protection zone as indicated in the maps. Shall include 1 mile around Hanging Rock and the area of Brown Mountain measured 500 feet from the top. The location of any tower proposed within 2 and 3 mile viewshed protection zone shall be reviewed by the Hanging Rock Park Advisory Board for a recommendation, which I just said. Page 170, paragraph 1, applicants shall locate in accordance with the following priorities in the following order. Existing structures, county-owned properties, existing structures without increasing height, areas zoned commercially or industrial, areas zoned agricultural, residential, and historic.
Okay,
Okay.
stop on point. Thank you.
Can I submit my
Can,
thing?
yes, if you just give it to Eric and he can pass it to,
Thank you.
Henry Fansler.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
I'm Henry Fansler. I reside at 919 Williams Road, Louisville, North Carolina. Yes, that's for South County, but I spend a whole lot of time here. I am the vice chair of the Park Advisory Committee, a trail volunteer, and a volunteer in the Visitor Center. So, yes, indeed, the PAC did decide not to approve this location. Personally, and I'm aware of the need for cell phone coverage. I wish there was some in the campground at Hanging Rock State Park. I wish there was more coverage on the upper parking lot at the lake, just in case someone needed to get out, to call it out. I have reconnected a hiker to his family on the Cook Wall Trail via cell phone, mainly because they took time to look at the places and noted the numbers on those places and reconnected with each other. I loaned my personal cell phone to another visitor so that she could contact her parents, so that her parents could send some kind of notification to the locksmith that to authorize him to open her parents' car, which she had borrowed, brought to the park, and locked her keys inside. Never a dull moment in the visitor center. So the important thing here is people come here for the park, for Vainmaker, for the river, and protecting those resources is a function of the park and part of the function of the Park Advisory Committee. The view shed, which I helped to establish many years ago, was an important part of that. That's what people come here to look for. And when they come here, and from my perspective, or at least as it involves me, if they come to the visitor center, I'm going to offer them other things to do if they request them. The recreation resources on the Dan River, dining opportunities, and even a place to buy art. So we're not opposed to cell towers. We are opposed to this location. It would be good to have more effective locations. I can see the need for that, but please have care for our view shed here. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Questions? No? Okay.
Ashley Johnson.
Hi, good evening, y'all. I'm Ashley Johnson, 1221 Capella School Road in King, North Carolina. I'm the education member of the Park Advisory Committee, and we take the view shed pretty seriously. And when it comes to what we're going to see from the park, that's definitely something that we hold dear to us. And if we're going to be able to see the cell phone tower from there, it's going to be something that we would argue against. In addition to that, all other conservation ideas that we have in the park, we're also in favor of those. However, as a member of community who lives in Stokes County, there are other things that are also important to me, and are important to a lot of people who live in Stokes County. One being that we either moved here for the rural nature of it or decided to stay here for the rural nature of it. There's that. There's also that we do want connectivity. We had an outage near where I live just a couple days ago, and we certainly felt it. So we need the connectivity. I'm a parent, so I need my kids to be able to contact emergency people if they need to, or me, of course, if they need to. I'm also a teacher, and so I would like my students to be able to be connected so they can do their work when they're at home. Rural nature is important. Being connected is still important. The way I'm looking at this is that the placement of future towers, this is a good opportunity for this community to come together to find more appropriate sites that don't interfere with our overall beauty, either visually, auditory, or otherwise, and to help us keep, and that we make it well placed enough so we can connect everybody in our county, in our community. So I'm hoping that you will deny the placement of this tower in favor of a different site farther from the Hanging Rock State Park and farther from some of the private homes. Thank you.
Debbie Cunningham? Hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
Could you pass these in? One for everybody. Hi, my name is Debbie Cunningham, and I live off of Keaton Road. My home is located within the 1,500 feet of that 195-foot cell tower. And I wanted to state that when they made these pictures, just so you know, you see how much foliage is on there? Well, in the wintertime, guess what? That foliage goes away and we're gonna see it even more. So that's another thing that we don't want. The petition results given to you are as follows. The online results show that 66 individuals are opposed to the cell tower. They may live in the area or they just travel to visit the beautiful mountains and their trails. They do not want to see this cell tower in the view shed. The door-to-door results show that there was substantial opposition of 108 local residents that were opposed to this cell tower. That's a total of 174 who said, no, we don't want this cell tower. The majority of the landowners at both the balloon test and planning board meeting were opposed to the cell tower. That's also in your packet. The adjoiners and adjacent landowners, accounting for over 95% of the surrounding acreage, are also opposed to the cell tower. For the properties on Keaton Road subject to notification, like myself, nearly 91% of the landowners, representing over 95% of the acreage, do not want this cell tower. Just a reminder, the State Park Advisory Committee of Hanging Rock are 100% against the cell tower because it would invade the view shed. The Planning Board of Stokes County voted against this cell tower also. In the petition packets that I gave you are for review, have more information on the folders. On the left side is the petition letter used online and that we used going door to door. I don't have enough time to go through everything on each paper, but you will have documents such as information on the residents on Keaton Road, subject to notification, and residents on Keaton Road, adjoiners and adjacent landowners, public meeting information, and finally that balloon test. All this information is prepared and broke down for easier understanding. On the right side of the online is the online and door-to-door signatures that they do not want this cell tower. So in reality, we do not want to attempt to rezone the property for the cell tower use and for it to affect our lives, and it does devalue our treasured homes. There's many researches done on this. Have any of you ever butt dialed? Well, I butt dialed and I got a 911 and had no idea. And I got a visit from the sheriff to let me know that I had butt dialed. And then I also had on purpose called 911 to have an ambulance come to my home. I use Verizon and my cell works just fine without this cell tower. I have no drop calls. Personally, we moved to North Carolina from Florida to get away from all the cell towers, the hustle of everyday life, and to enjoy the beauty that surrounds us. Not to have a cell tower show up so very close to our doorsteps. The cell tower will remove our pleasure and safety for my family and my friends. So we, the people, say no to this cell tower. And as you can see from the petition, it is just not wanted here. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda Crumley.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Rhonda Crumley. I would like to give my time to Ms. Sue Hawkins Sue that followed me to enable her to complete her presentation. And for the record, I am opposed to the cell tower.
Give your time to who?
Sue Hawkins.
Okay, just have them remind when they come up that you've got the time. So Sue Hodgkins, all right.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. My name is Sue Hodkinson, and I reside at 1050 Mountain Mist Road with my sister Debbie Cunningham. I asked to speak tonight on the pending 195-foot monopole cell tower to be placed on the property located at the corner of Keaton and Lynchburg Roads, zoned residential agricultural properties. Tonight, my question is directed to the Board of Commissioners. And that question is, how do we measure the will of the people? I would like to revisit a public meeting held on June 4th at 6 p.m. concerning the above referenced 195-foot cell tower. As the public was invited to attend, more than 17 representatives of families arrived to voice their opinions and concerns at this scheduled meeting in opposition to the tower. Much to my surprise, when the people were told the meeting had been canceled with no prior notification given. As one who came to voice my concerns, I was recently asked, how did it make me feel when we were told that the meeting had been canceled? My response was simply, I felt duped, like the system had failed us. Upon leaving the building, there were others arriving to speak, only to be told the meeting had been canceled. Tonight, it is the heart of the people I wish to be heard and fairly heard, to be justifiably considered as everyday citizens, hard workers, homeowners, farmers, and retirees who have made it their mandate to stop the intrusion of this 195-foot cell tower into their lives. We are asking this because we do not want this tower so close to our homes, our families, our children, our right-of-way. Not to mention every day being subjected to what is considered by the United States Department of Housing, along with other departments, a nuisance or a hazard. Some research suggests that cell towers radiation may be linked to health issues such as cancer, brain tumors, and weakened immune function. There are so many pros and cons within this cell topic of cell towers placed within residential family properties that others here tonight will address. My concern is to embrace the will of the homeowners who actually live adjacent to the property where this 195-foot cell tower will be placed and will be in operation. The owner of this parcel of land will not be affected one way or the other. They do not reside on said property. This property is to be leased out, creating financial gain for him, without consideration for those who dwell upon this beautiful mountain. It is one thing for people to decide to build their home near a cell tower, because that is their choice. However, it is a completely different matter to force a cell tower on an existing community when they don't want it and they didn't ask for it. This 195-foot monopole cell tower was non-existent at the time of their purchase of property and home. Should this tower be placed upon this parcel of land, it will certainly influence these families' income should they decide to sell their property and home in the future. So, how do we measure the will of these people here tonight? We are asking that you would safeguard our human health, our environment, by erring caution on behalf of the people, by empowering us, we the people, in this matter. And if for no other reason, let the heart and the voice and the will of this people living and thriving in this area be heard and accepted, to be acknowledged, and to empower them, to secure them with your no decision to the 195-foot monopole cell tower. Lastly, I feel that with all the challenges, hardships, changes facing our world today, this 195-foot cell tower, in the face of these people, should be overturned and dismissed as unnecessary and grievous. Tonight, we the people have submitted 172 signatures in opposition to the placement of the cell tower onto the property located at the corner of Keaton and Lynchburg Roads. And with this in consideration, I thank you for your time and efforts of support on our behalf.
Thank you. Tammy Brannick.
Hi, how are y'all? I live in the mobile home that y'all seen on the thing in that picture. It's less than 500 feet from my house. And I oppose it because when you walk out our door, you go to see it. You go to our kitchen window, you go to see it. You have a cookout in the yard, you go to see it. Our youngin has heart problems. You can't prove to me that that won't cause more problems. I don't want it at all, because, and I feel like it will make our land value go down. I know they say it won't, but who's gonna wanna buy that land with this big old tower right in front of your door? I just feel like nobody's gonna want that. If you go to the country, you gonna wanna live in the country, not towers sticking up in your front door. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Kyle. Kyle Braniff.
How y'all doing? Kyle
How you
Brannick.
doing?
Live on 1108 Keaton Road. You know, I love nature. I love going outside. I stay outside. As soon as I walk out the door, that'll be the first thing I see. And I fear it's probably not good for the animals or the humans. About everything's been said. They don't say about everything I got to say. That's all I have. I'm against it. I don't want it. If you could go back to the first screen, you'd see how close I am to the tower. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, at 7:45, this concludes the public comments and the public hearing.
It's another page. It's 2 pages. Yeah, there's another page. 2 pages, you're not there.
Oh, 2 pages. Oh, silly me. Geraldine, my glasses. Geraldine. Sorry about that. That's one.
No problem. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Geraldine Keaton Otting, and I live on Keaton Road. Our community is adamantly opposed, in case you haven't heard, and will remain steadfast in our opposition to the rezoning request for the placement of a cell tower on the corner of Keaton and Lynchburg Road. The proposed tower will have a dramatic adverse aesthetic impact. It will reduce our property values, significantly alter the natural beauty of our neighborhood, and forever change the character of our community, as well as the entire Hanging Rock State Park viewshed. Our community is zoned RA residential, and for a good reason. We would prefer our neighborhood not be turned into an industrial zone eyesore. This massive structure will be located 1/10 of a mile from the intersection of the road and will be twice the height of the trees. It will be clearly within view of the entrance and exit of all the traffic on Keaton Road, and it will most certainly detract from the visual appeal of our neighborhood. The proposed tower is within close proximity to a number of residents. As Tammy and Kyle just explained, it's less than 500 feet from their front door. Our sense of well-being will certainly be directly affected by its placement and its operation. It will be the tallest structure in and around the area, resulting in a contradictory effect on the community landscape, and it will pose an unsightly visual impact for residents and commuters as well as visitors to our Hanging Rock State Park, because it is situated prominently along the Highway 268 corridor. And I would remind you that there is a big difference in viewing a fish string with a balloon on the end of it versus a 199-foot metal structure in your front door. The proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the Stokes County 2035 Vision Plan, which states that we should discourage commercial land development, particularly along rural road corridors. And as previously stated by Robin from our Hanging Rock State Park group, they firmly oppose the cell towers at Mara Viewshed, and with the belief that their decision is in the best interest of both the visitors to Hanging Rock State Park and the citizens of Stokes County, they do not support approval of the proposed tower on Keaton Road. Their recommendation should clearly resolve the debate between the need for connectivity and preservation of the natural beauty and serenity for areas in our park's viewshed. We could agree there is absolutely nothing beautiful about a cell tower. This industrial installation will be a permanent structure and will be seen for miles in the surrounding area and have an unmitigated, significant adverse visual impact on the picturesque scenery from our iconic park and the surrounding area. Now, you just imagine what everyone's view will be like without foliage for 6 months of the year, and it's in your front door. We talk about the park's viewshed, but the viewshed of our neighborhood is of equal importance to us. During the planning board meeting, the applicant's agent stated, quote, "Neighbors will indeed see the tower." He continued by stating that once the tower is constructed, we will forget where it is over time once it is standing and in place. Really? How utterly absurd and insulting that is to us. Clearly, this 4-antenna metal monopole will not be in harmony with our community or the spirit and intent of the Stokes County 2035 vision plan's acceptable uses for this location. This property would be commercially used in an otherwise rural setting and would have a significant adverse impact on our community and our park's viewshed. In closing, as you've heard before, we the people who actually live here do not want this tower, and we do not want it forced upon us. So I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Frank?
I think everything's pretty well said already. I'm not sure what I can add to the topic. Would like to share with Mr. Chairman that Joe Bullins has graciously given me his extra time.
Okay.
My eyeballs here. Don't count that against me. All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Frank Otting. I live on Keaton Road. The public perception of the health risk associated with living in proximity to cell towers is real. This reality has been voiced by many of our local residents already. The cell tower radiation exposures are nonstop, day and night. We can turn our cell phones off, but we cannot turn off the cell tower's radio frequency transmissions. Their unattractive appearance, the type of neighborhood people want to live in, and the effect on property valuations will forge to play a significant role to deter potential buyers and reduce the overall market appeal of our property. Our properties will be on the market longer and will not attract the normal amount of buyer activity or even an offer without some form of discounted valuation. Our petition results showed overwhelming opposition, with over 90% of community residents against the tower at this location. The tower will be a blight, a constant visible eyesore, and will have a negative impact on the health, home, and our land values. Expert witness testimony, oftentimes quoted, provided by the Burgoyne Appraisal Company before the FCC, reads, in part, quote, "While the magnitude of the impact varies, the studies uniformly indicate that there is a significant impact on residential property values from the installation of cell phone towers. Not surprisingly, the studies that show little or no impact have been universally commissioned by and paid for by the telecommunications industry," unquote. Even the Appraisal Institute, which is the largest global professional organization for appraisers, states, quote, "A cell tower should, in fact, cause a decrease in home values," unquote. We are very concerned regarding the extent to which the proposed rezoning will be materially detrimental to property valuations located especially close to the vicinity of the tower. We were informed that the purpose of the cell tower, and we heard it tonight, was to benefit emergency service access. Well, we checked with 911 Communications Center and fire marshal staff and spoke with several locals who have called 911 using their cell phones, all of whom confirmed they have not experienced cellular connectivity issues in this area. Let me repeat, all have confirmed. Secondly, we have spoken with residents, third-party delivery drivers, and other users familiar with our community, and they all confirmed that there is not a need in this immediate area. That includes HVAC guys, Terminix people, everyone coming around. We asked. To document our personal cellular experience, we've made several trips round trip from the top of Keaton Road down to the bottom of Keaton Road and then 2 miles northeast southwest. We experienced no drop calls or dead zones. We called various departments along the way and Stokes County Government Center to ensure connectivity as well, with no any issues. In addition, state park officials who reviewed the proposal stated that it did not appear that our visitors at Hanging Rock will notice much difference in connectivity either. We are far from convinced that there is even a proven significant gap in coverage, or that this proposed location is the least intrusive means to remedy the asserted gap, or that there is a lack of feasible alternative locations in this community. The burden of proof still rests with the applicant. Who are we to believe? Are we to believe the applicant's narrative and compliance statement in which they state that, quote, the proposed wireless communications facility site meets all the conditions and specifications of Moore County? Was this an oversight? Are we to believe the many misstatements during the planning board meeting were those oversights? Are we to believe that failure to provide information is just another oversight? Are we to believe that a request for a delay or continuance of the June 4th Board of Commissioners meeting was because of an oversight? An oversight that the applicant and their agent had well over a dozen opportunities over an extended period of time prior to the meeting to correct and declined to do so. There's such an extensive list of issues and oversights with this application that befuddles the mind. Summary. Our neighborhood is not unruled, but it is the intrinsic value of the community and the natural beauty which we all came here for. Some of our families have been here for generations, and others bought their homes here because of the aesthetic characteristics which define our neighborhood. The photograph simulations simply confirm and validate what we already know. The natural beauty and character of the area surrounding Hanging Rock State Park and the visual aspect of our neighborhood and the quality of our life will be forever altered by this proposed 190-foot metal structure. We're also very concerned that should the county approve the site, a strong precedent will be set and a green light given for the establishment of additional cell towers throughout the 2 and 3 mile viewshed protection zone surrounding Hanging Rock State Park. The proposed site is not consistent with the State of Stokes County 2035 Vision Plan, which is to create a healthy built and natural environment in which we, quote, respect the county's history and rural character and protect the county's unique natural environment. It specifically classifies our neighborhood and the surrounding area as an open space to rural community, which asserts that our community should play an important role in preserving our natural resources. In conclusion, we are emphatically opposed to the rezoning request for the placement of a cell tower on the corner of Keaton and Lynchburg Road. With reference to Stokes County 2035 Vision Plan, 2017 Stokes County Comprehensive Transportation Plan, and Stokes County Zoning Ordinance, the proposed site is not in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the county's inhabitants and will have a deleterious effect on the nature and character of the neighborhood, community, and Hanging Rock State Park. The natural beauty of the park and the surrounding area is what binds the entire Stokes County community together. Let us not destroy the harmony and the scenic beauty that it so richly provides. Hanging Rock State Park is, after all, the gem of our community. We urge the board to stand with the Hanging Rock State Park Advisory Committee, Stokes County Planning Board, and support the overwhelming majority of local residents of our community to deny this application for a tower on the corner of Keaton and Lynchburg Road. It's not wanted, it's not needed. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. This time, this ends the public comment section, also the public hearing. Open for any discussion, questions? I don't have your name on my. Well, no, it's not that, but it's.
Give him 4 minutes.
All right, come up. All right.
But no, my name's Joe Duncan. I live at 1310 Lynchburg Road, and I'd like, sorry, I'm working on no sleep from work. I'd like to state that last time I checked the Stokes County GIS, there's only about 4 or 5 actual residents closer to that tower than my house is, okay? And I've lived there a long time. And the attorney here, he took care of a lot of what I had to say, so that's good stuff. But you know, there's a need for data service, and one thing about it, you've got cell signals, yes, but data service is unusable in that area. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's unusable. I tried to use it for work. I tried to use it on my cell phone. So there's also a need to have a cell tower because data service decreases greatly with the distance from the tower. And so also it is needed for fire and EMS, I believe. But you know, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and you can look it up, I'll show you, but only 34.5% of adults in North Carolina have a landline, which means 65.5 adults in North Carolina, meaning 18 or over, do not have a landline. So how are these people communicating if they got a phone at all? Well, we need cell service. That's why. I could not find out a breakout by county. Okay, so it's only for the whole state on their website. And also, I was there for the balloon test, and it was fine with me. I mean, I could see the tower from my house, no problem. But I also would like to say, and I mentioned at the last meeting, that as many times as I hiked up to the top of Hanging Rock and stood there at that fire tower, and my house, again, was inside that balloon test, I can't find my own house. It takes me a while to find it, and I know exactly where I'm looking for. And it's hard to find my own house. So finding a monopole out there is yes, you can see it, but you're going to have to try to find it to see it, because I can't find my house hardly, and I got a 2-acre field right behind it to help me find it. So I think that the visual effect is kind of overblown. I mean, you go up there on a clear day, I can see all the way to Winston-Salem, but we'll let them stay. And just one more thing. I mean, a lot of people holding up signs here that says no cell phone. Just happen to be observing back here, or no cell tower rather, that they have cell phones with them. And so, I agree that people don't want a tower, but it's not gonna. We also want cell phone. And again, the data service is critical. Okay. And I really think it's also critical to keep it. I'm an IT professional. Okay. I really think is cell phone and data service is critical to helping us grow. I mean, I love the beauty. I moved up here for the beauty. I've lived here a long time for the beauty, and I got a good view of the mountain. But having services is also essential to growth. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yep. At this time, the public comment is closed. You want to add something?
Well, I just wanted to kind of speak to what was said, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
And I will be brief. I know it's had a lot of people speaking, and I don't want to take up a lot of time. Mr. Chair, you had your prayer at the beginning, and part of what you said was concern for the hurricane coming, or it's a tropical storm now, and what it may cause, and folks, and how it may affect them. I personally went through Hurricane Floyd back in the 90s. I was in Greenville, North Carolina, and flooding everywhere. Infrastructure was all down. Electricity, water. Obviously, sewer's not going to work properly either. And I personally escorted a guard unit from Hickory to go float a generator out to the cell tower that was providing the regional service there, because the batteries that were there were running out very fast, and that was the only method of communication. That was it. If that went out, there was no telephone communication because the landlines were gone. That's an extreme example, but it's true. That it's an important part. And if you look at what I've got on the screen right here, what do you see? You see a power pole. They're all around us. We've come to accept that, and that's fine. Certainly we don't want to go back to no power poles and no power. Nobody wants to not have that. And you've got high voltage lines that are, you say, well, this isn't very tall. Well, you've got high voltage lines around here. You've got a very significant power plant here with high voltage lines that go through. They're tall. But we accept that because it's in the landscape, and I guess we want power. But we do want the ability to communicate. That is very important. And that's why your ordinance has standards that we have to meet, specific standards. There's no reason, and I have to apologize. I apologize to everybody. I was contacted to try to help with this tower and represent the company before that June 4th hearing. I was out of state. That's why we continued it. I could not appear. So, blame me for that. That wasn't anybody trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I just was not available, and vacations happen. And that's one extended vacation I hadn't taken in years. I just want to say this is just a significant part, and your ordinance recognizes it. And what we prepared, it was accurate enough that your consultant said everything was good. Your staff has said everything is good. They're paid to do that. They said the application met your ordinance. It met the requirements. The only evidence you have here of impact on value is our evidence from a certified appraiser that says no. Otherwise, it's just lay evidence. Again, I go back to the RF exposure, radio frequency exposure. State law says that's just absolutely cannot be considered in this type of decision. Very specific from the state statute. The community meeting, I just want to point out, I've got the sign-in sheet that was used. There were about 7 people that signed up and appeared. When I look at who's for and against, it was about split, but there were only 7 people there. So it wasn't like there were a lot of people there and a lot of people concerned or there to ask questions, which is the whole purpose of that meeting and why you have it under your ordinance. It's so people can come and be heard, and they weren't. You can't go without infrastructure. Just like you can't go without power, you can't go without communications. It is going to be somewhere, and if you move it from this location to another location, the folks at that location won't want it. But the good thing about cell towers is you don't have to have that many of them. Just like power poles, you got to have a whole lot more, but cell towers, you don't have to have that much. And that's the beneficial part to cover large areas. It was mentioned about another tower that was blank. That tower is 4.5 miles away from this site, outside our search ring, which is what the site acquisition person was given to find the tower site for Verizon. Well outside of that, the search rings are maybe a mile in diameter, half mile to a mile in diameter. So it was well outside of that. And state law says all that we really have to look at is within the search ring. That's what, and state statute specifically addresses that as well. There are propagation maps that show the need for coverage that are in the packet and were in the application. It shows Verizon's deficiencies. Can you get a signal every now and then? Oh, sure. I mean, you can roll the dice and you may get a signal and it may be okay. But like the last gentleman said, it may not be okay for data because that's a very different thing. And in a rural county like Stokes County, it's hard to get access to data. State government, federal government's pushing hard to get more access to data to folks, but in an area like this, it's hard to do without doing it wirelessly. So just ask you to consider all of that. But more than anything, I trust that you place faith in your staff and your consultant you paid and hired. And they say we meet the requirements and it is necessary. So I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Sir, if we approve this rezoning, so you're saying 100% coverage all the time?
No, I'm not saying 100%. I can't say 100% coverage all the time, and I'll give you an example why. There was an earthquake around the Richmond area several years ago. I was in my office in Raleigh when it happened. The building started shaking. You could not get a phone call out. Because what did everybody do? Everybody picked up their phone to find out what the heck was going on. You could get a text message out, and that's what people resorted to, because text messages don't take the bandwidth to be delivered as phone calls do. So I can't say that. Just like you can't say your power is going to be there 100% of the time. Storm's going to come through, knock the power line out. There are people that are losing power right now because of the storm that's there. So just like any infrastructure, I can't say it's going to be there 100% of the time. It will be overwhelmed at times. It may be down for some various reason at times. But it's proven, at least as it did in Floyd, that the wireless coverage stayed up much better than the landline coverage, and that was the way we communicated at that time. So that's what I can say, that it's been a reliable method. So.
I think there's more and more technology that's coming online too that I think kind of negates some of what you're saying. As as we go through time, there are other things that, like I say, technology that's getting ready to come on, to be just as viable as what you're saying.
I'm not aware of any technology that's come about that does it. I mean, at one time there was a big push to do satellite, but it proved not to be commercially reasonable and a way to work. Now, it does work in certain circumstances. I'm a camper. I go out and camp in campgrounds like at Hanging Rock or wherever. There are people that use satellite to get access to internet service
Works
with
in
their
Ukraine.
campers. Yeah, but it's very. I mean, it's expensive and difficult to for a lot of people to use. But they do use it when they don't have it otherwise. But I think if they had options, they would rather use the wireless system, the Verizon's, AT&T's, T-Mobile's, than pay the extra for the satellite. So
The
it's a
majority of
limited
people that I've
utility.
heard is not saying that they would rather have a cell tower and use a cell tower series. They're saying that they get cell coverage, and they also say that, they and we even have an advisory committee and our state ranger back there. I mean, of all people, she would know if we're not getting, if we're missing emergency calls, emergency situations. I'm retired public safety. Trust me, that's a big thing. That's a big issue. That they're not seeing that, and it's not, it's so.
Well,
it
only-
seems to me, sir. It seems to me that you're honing in on, for commercial business, or honing in on somebody that wants to work from home, to take away iconic historical views of Hanging Rock State Park and Pilot Mountain State Park. And I just, and then I have an issue with, I used to do a lot of operational plans. If I would have turned in an operational plan, and I don't know who did it, but if I would have turned in an operational plan like y'all did, that had a lot of misquoted, like the acreage and everything, I'd be fired. So I don't. I think you're a good guy, and I think that you're speaking for your client, and I understand that. That's what you're getting paid to do. But I don't have a lot of faith in what you're telling us. Off that applicant, off that original applicant.
With the propagation maps, you know where they are on here. All I can rely on is technology and what the and this is. All I can rely on is this is a propagation map from a radio frequency engineer that was in the record. This is before and after. The goal is to have in-vehicle and in-building coverage. You may get coverage outside, which that orange color is outside, but maybe not in building or in vehicle coverage. That's the goal here, and you can see between the right and the left. And the RF engineer in the record, stated
Are you
that
talking
there
about
was a
for a
gap.
commercial building? Is that what
No,
you're
any in building, not commercial.
Any building?
Like a house.
I know a
This
lot
is
of.
not commercial. not just commercial.
And I could see if for a commercial building, you need a BDA to be able to have, 98, 99% access to get out on a cell phone or a radio, call for help.
But this is, all I can do is rely on what the RF engineer says. This is not me.
Understand.
But it's a radio frequency engineer with Verizon. And he basically says it's to serve mobility users, that is people that are driving on Highway 268 and 66. And there's a major gap in current coverage as the inner site distance is 4+ miles, meaning the gap between the existing towers is too far to maintain that coverage. And it's to provide coverage to rural homes to the south of the new site. And that's all I can tell you in terms of the coverage and how it works. And it doesn't, while I realize that maybe there hasn't been a situation where somebody didn't have service and couldn't get help, for the person that one time they can't, that's important to them, obviously. And you build a network, so over time, you're trying, what they're saying is they're building a network to be able to have reliable service.
Well, I guess,
So maybe not at a moment in time, but looking just like when they built the power plant and built the power lines.
so just, I mean, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Morse for a second, but along the same lines, I mean, you're an attorney.
Right.
I mean, everything is based on reasonableness.
Right.
So when you come up and hike in a rural area, obviously the expectation is that you're not going to have video going on your camera a lot of times, and you would have a hard time. And a lot of times that people take it, at their own risk. Got some questions?
Yeah, let me explore a couple areas if you would. First of all, what are there are 2 or 3 structures. What are the 2 or 3 closest structures to this tower? And how many feet are they from it? One of them was 500 feet from one of the speakers.
Well, all I can.
I thought another one was
Be good.
100 and something feet.
I'm going to the survey. I can find that. I may be going the wrong direction. And I apologize. This isn't bookmarked, so
Well, is there any reason to believe that what we were told tonight from the folks that spoke that their distances were off? Didn't somebody say 167
I don't know. I
feet?
can tell this. This is on the site itself. Your ordinance requires a setback. It's 110% of the height of the tower, which in this case, it's like right at 200 and some. I mean, it's 195, so it's about 210 feet, 220 feet or so. So this is the ring from the 220 feet.
I'm more not interested in how far, if the tower will hit something if it falls. I'm more interested in how close these structures are and how close their view of the tower would be.
Well, here it's got measurements from the property line right here. This is an aerial. I mean, it appears to be a residence on the other side of Keaton Road, and that's a good distance from this site. Well, I mean, I'll look here and see what I've got it here. I mean, I can give you the footage. I don't want to go good distance.
I don't want to drag it all out, but I got other questions.
Well, go ahead, but it's a good distance.
The problem here is that we all understand the importance of connectivity. We've gone through massive efforts to get internet and cell coverage and so forth up here over the last 10 years that I've been involved here with the county. But so we understand the importance of that, but and we understand meeting the technical requirements of our ordinance. We do the best we can with our ordinance, and they're there as a guide to try to get these things right. But technically meeting the ordinance doesn't automatically mean it should be approved. The reason it comes to the planning board and comes to us is to determine things like, is it a good fit for the community? Doesn't appear to me this is a good fit for the community at this point. I went through a personal situation, which Mr. Southers back there is well familiar with, where we had 2 or 3 tower companies in my neighborhood looking for locations for sites. One of them I got there earlier than the other one did and kind of got ahead of the power curve. Well, they did the balloon test, and it blocked the view of Moore's Knob for about 5 or 6 houses. So, the first question was, why would anybody put a tower there right between these really nice houses and Moore's Knob? So, and to I'll jump around a little bit, but to your point about the number of people that were involved, you advertise, you put a sign out for these public meetings, these balloon tests, but people just don't see it. Like for that first balloon test, there were probably less than 10 people there, but there were lots of people interested once they found out what was going on. So,
I did want to correct one thing. It's not just signs and that. It has to go in the newspaper. And
understand
letters
that.
have to
I
be
just be
mailed.
county manager here,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
know all
I'm saying we have to do a little more than that. So.
Yeah, we do, but still people miss it, and then they finally, whenever the word gets around, you get more interest like we have with this one. So what we did on that tower, that was obviously a bad place for it. Then I offered a piece of a place for it on my property that we thought would cure all the disagreements from the 10 or 15 people that were there and others that came up. So then they went through a process of analyzing that site and everything. Then the opposition still came back. So I immediately rescinded my application because I wasn't going to put it there if the neighbors didn't want it there. It then went to a third location. All of this is within probably a half to 3/4 of a mile that where it should have went in the first place, and nobody opposed it. So the opposition to this one is 10 times what it was to that one, as far as the number of people that have given us petitions and signed and called and sent emails. The only person I've heard for it's the one gentleman that got up and spoke tonight. Everybody's against it. So I have real problems shoving a cell tower into this community where it's, in my opinion, probably not in the best public interest when all of the public is up here telling us they don't want it. And you know, are there other cell tower companies also sending out letters like they do and trying to put a tower in this same area? You know?
I can't speak to what other companies are doing. All I can speak to is this one. I mean, David Best is here who did that, and he sent out letters and he got gauged interest and narrowed it down. I mean, it all, you know, sometimes it's not as simple as switching to another parcel because people just may not want it. And so you've got a lot of things you got to work with to do it.
It has
I mean,
to
you
work
know that, citing
technically.
anything.
It has to work technically. I mean, that's the
Right.
bottom line. But
Sure.
then when we have so much opposition to this, that's a real concern. And then the reason I asked the question earlier to the other gentleman there on property values, his answer was no, it never affects property values. He'd never seen one except some unusual situation where it, so to me the question then, but you know, I don't have any confidence in whether it does or not whenever the expert tells me that he's never had one that affected a property value. That just to me just doesn't exactly make sense, because it's certainly possible that it would affect the property value of these properties that are right close to it, and looking at it. And
He said that there were some where it was just obviously kind of similar to what you were saying about Moore's Knob. It's one that was so close to a house that, yeah, it would, and like right in front of somebody's window or whatever.
yeah, the view's
But what he's saying
important.
is he's not seen a study, which I really haven't either, where you actually analyze, say, a neighborhood where some can see the tower and some can't. And then you look at the values and compare them, and compare the differences in the values. And literally those studies that have actually done that have not found.
So that it
that
never
kind of-
affects the values, and to me that's questionable.
Well, there's so many
just-
things that go into value, and the appraiser can get up here and
Yeah.
speak to it, but it's,
You probably aren't
somebody
going to
may
know
wanna
if it
measure-
affected the value till you try to sell one of these houses. And that would be my opinion. I mean,
well, there's so many factors. You know, does the house have a master bedroom downstairs and somebody wants a master bedroom up? Is it a contemporary versus a traditional home? I mean, there's so many factors that a cell tower in and of itself may not be the only factor. One guy, like the guy that was back here that likes IT, he may say, I don't care because I just want strong IT service. But somebody
and
else
to
may
me that
care.
is absolutely not guaranteed by putting this tower there.
Well, I mean, it's, there are times,
That's
it will
another
be
thing that
really
bothers
good
me.
service.
Most of the people seem like they have an adequate cell signal.
Well, there's a difference.
Everybody that's talked to us.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, there's a difference between you may be able to get some voice coverage as to whether or not you can actually have enough for broadband coverage. Because I'll get a signal on my phone in my neighborhood, and the data service is glitchy. So
River Street has a system here, I forget the name of it, that you can get now that if you have a cell signal, it will get you a very good high-speed internet, and it'll do it with one bar.
Well, I'm not familiar with that, can't speak to that.
I've seen it demonstrated, and Keith has too as well, so. Oh, no, I'm just, you know, there's so much opposition to this from so many folks that it's not a good fit for this area. I have a very difficult time supporting it. I think we need to go back and look for other alternative sites probably.
Any more questions, comments?
I've sat here and bit my lip until I can't stand it. It's very simple. The last few days, I heard nobody for it. I come here and the ones that are for it are getting paid to be for it. So that's a no-brainer to me, no. Then I look at Hanging Rock and Pilot Mountain and how many, no.
You can't.
You can't. I already let you talk one time. You're not getting any rent, you're gonna give them the land, right? And no rent for putting the tower up? I think what I meant.
It's not his land.
Oh, okay.
It's not his land.
Well, all right, one, I stand corrected. But the other thing I want to say is nobody drives from Raleigh, Charlotte, other states to a park to see a cell tower. And that's where I stand. I'm against it.
I have one other quick question too. Is Robin still here? Oh, there you are. Robin, or maybe somebody else. Somebody mentioned you could see this tower from Mickey Road. Everybody that lives here knows that view on Mickey Road, that very specific point that everybody is familiar with. Can you see it from that point?
Yes, that was one of the pictures there. And in my opinion, that's $1 million view. And if there's ever an astrological something going on, people will be parked all up and down there to look at that outlook that's in his picture.
That specific view, if it's in that view, I would absolutely not support it. If it's anywhere in that window that's about a quarter of a mile there.
Which one is, I mean, I just want to make sure, I'm just curious.
That
That's
one.
right in front of Barney Castle's.
Yeah, and that's the church now. And that the White House, the White House is right there. That White House.
The White House would be kind of behind you and to the right, but you can see this, I can't tell if that's Stony Ridge, but
That's the church steeple, right? Right.
right there, Brown Mountain in the background, and you can see Nancy Reynolds Elementary, that white speck right there.
Yeah. The view is actually better than what's depicted there. And I would not put a cell tower in that view.
But I'm trying to, and again, I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything. I just want to know, I can't see it right here. And so that's my question. I'm not trying. Not there yet. You can't see it. No, I'm talking about from the balloon test. I mean, he used the air to show it.
size of a watermelon.
Well, I mean, that's,
With the fish line.
I mean, that's all we've got. I mean, that's, you know, the direction we're given, and all we can do is float the balloon, so.
If there's not any more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Sir,
You're okay with it?
I am.
And after I make the motion, I'd like to make sure that our, Mr. Nance, says that this motion is, legal, to bring it to a vote. So if you'll listen carefully to what I read out. I make a motion to deny the rezoning request #24-371 to rezone tax parcel 6907-87-6834 at USNC 5225, Highway 268 Keaton Road, from RA to RACZ, which is Residential Agricultural Conditional Zoning, for the construction of a wireless communications tower for cellular service. And once again, Mr. Nance, that motion is to deny the request. Is that proper terminology for my motion?
Did you deny the request based on the reasoning? What was?
We got that too. I mean, we can, you want that done now?
Yes, please.
Now? We do it?
You're the chairman. Yes, sir.
We're-
You do understand my motion is to deny this.
Right.
And you're going to,
You
as
do.
chairman, give the rationale.
Right.
Thank you.
We are denying the request initially because the applicant provided the wrong acreage on the application for rezoning. While it may be consistent with the Stokes County 2035 Comprehensive Plan, it's also not in the public interest for the following reasons. The impact study that is required per the Stokes County zoning ordinance requires a visual impact assessment to portray the visual impact on surrounding properties. The study submitted by the applicant does not include visual impact, which is required by ordinance. Number two, we have two treasured local landmarks. Hanging Rock and Pilot Mountain are natural amenities in our area in North Carolina. The proposed cell tower would impact the viewshed of citizens in the surrounding area and diminish the beautiful scenery that our residents value and that tourists travel miles for. The Hanging Rock State Park Advisory Committee and Planning Board have both reviewed the facts and voted against the tower. And if I can say this, increased cellular service is a need that some residents desire, but the vast majority of residents surrounding and nearby to the proposed tower adamantly against a metal tower being built and put into the line of sight. The residents in the area live there because of the beautiful scenery and close proximity to our national landmark of Hanging Rock. Building something that almost every individual that it will affect is opposed to is certainly not in the public interest. Can I get a second to Commissioner Mendenhall's? Any further discussion?
Make sure now, Mr. Nance, after my motion to deny and our chairman's rationale that he just read, we are good to make the motion to deny. Is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, that should suffice.
So I maintain my motion to deny.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion
Make
for
a
adjournment.
motion, we adjourn.
Second. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Adjourn.
Hey, Sonia.